Hey, artsy friends, welcome to my third composition notebook art journal series. I am going to jump right into the process, but I will put a link down below to the video that it shows how I prepared this art journal. So today I'm going to be working on this page, which is algebra homework, and I'm going to be layering it first with some very bright colors, some glow-in-the-dark neons, and then isn't this cute? This is a little cozy that goes on a mug, but it tickled my lips, so now I keep my sponges in it. And I am just going to smush paint all around the page. And I have found that these cosmetic wedges, makeup wedges, whatever you want to call them, are the best way to do that. So I had started with this silicone brush, and because when you glue cheap paper back to back, you get some wrinkles and some puckering, the smoothness of the silicone brush just wasn't working. So I almost always go back to the sponges anyway. So I'll put a link down below to where you can get those too on Amazon. They're really cheap. So I work very intuitively. I kind of think about one layer at a time. And so I am just building up the background. You know, we're starting with collage, starting with some math. And I know that I want really bright colors to be kind of the base of my page. I discovered while working on the first page that one of the paints I have glows under a black light, and I thought it was kind of cool, and I want to incorporate some kind of black light paint on each page, so it'd be kind of fun at the end to be able to flip through and see all the different ways that, you know, you can use that to make the page kind of pop off in the dark. You can wash and reuse these sponges, or if you let like one side of the triangle dry, you can actually just cut it with a scissors and create a new side, clean surface. And something else that I do sometimes is just use the same one for similar colors. Like I started with the yellow and then I use the same one for the green because it's okay if they blend. But you'll get to know color the more you work with it and which is gonna not blend so well. So basically neighbors on the color wheel are friends. Okay, I don't know why I do this, but this is the second time I've attempted to make a stamp out of food. I don't know if I kept or showed it to you before, if you've watched all my previous videos, but I cut this bunch of asparagus and I thought, oh, how cool would that be if I made it into a stamp? So I experimented with that. At first I smeared the paint on the tray and tried like stamping it, and then I looked and I'm like, it's not really covering it. So I used the sponge to get it all painty, and then ready? Oops. It just slid across the page and it was terrible. It was ugly. Okay, now I have just this weird spot that's like a smudge. And I'm trying to cover it up with more paint, but because there's yellow and green underneath, it's not quite covering the same way. Okay, so I thought a number stencil would be appropriate since my page began with algebra. I'm going to keep building on that theme. And so it's always interesting to see how a page progresses when you don't really have an ultimate plan. And I'm starting with just the basic concept of numbers. Okay, jumping ahead a step, I also use the number stencil with some color shift, kind of a metallic, really light, subtle purple paint as well. And now I am grabbing another metallic marker and I'm just going to do some journaling of some thoughts. And I'm kind of all over the place. And so this is asemic writing. This is something that I've really grown to enjoy during the process, because it creates an element on the page where there's some, that there's kind of like some thought underneath the page, and it's not meant to be read. It's not like the kind of journaling where you're like, oh, what does that quote say, or what are her thoughts? It's more me just processing my thoughts on the page, and it feels very personal and private and secret, and it's kind of fun that way. If you do want to make sure that your journaling is private, two things that you can do. One is when you write the lines, overlap the lines so the words just blend into each other. And the other thing is that as you write, you can move around the page so the sentences are kind of drawn out. Okay, real quick, I wanted to show you an inspiration piece that I saw on Pinterest. This is Lisa Ramos, and I'll put a link to her link. But the stars are what caught my eye, and so I wanted to kind of incorporate that concept, but I am not really fabulous at drawing stars. Like, I can do it, but then I know that if I move around the page, they're going to look really wonky. So I wanted them to look really pretty. And first I tried the carbon paper or tracing paper, and I was like, it kind of gets lost in the background. That might be kind of hard to transfer and paint or draw around. So I'm using a piece of white cardstock, and I'm still using the tracing paper, and I am just going to trace all these different size stars all over the cardstock, and then I am going to cut them out. And then I guess I didn't explain that the stars I just printed up from my computer to use as a template. So now I'm just going to cut them all out. And, there's always kind of an afterthought of like, well, another easier way I could have done this was to actually just print on cardstock from my printer. Could have done that. So I don't know, use your imagination. You might even have stencils already that are stars, creativity is about being resourceful. Like, sometimes I do things the hard way because I just don't have the patience to think it through. I just go with the first thought that pops into my head. And for me, that was like, oh, I'll just print up stars. Huh. All right, so now I'm taking white paint, and this is just kind of a cheap white craft paint. And one thing that I'm realizing, it's not very opaque. It does not cover solidly. And the more that I'm using it on this page, the more I see that rings true. But I'm kind of embracing that with this page because I like being able to see through it a little bit. It kind of has maybe a kind of a gesso feel where, and with the stars, it's kind of like light, you can kind of see through it, but anyway, so I'm using it as a masking tool around. The stars are a masking tool, and I'm just using a paintbrush and kind of feathering out all of the arms of the stars, and it's fun. I like how it's working so far. Then I thought I would try another method as well of just tracing it with a Posca marker, and then I'll go back and do the feathering with the brush as well. And I just, is it easier this way or that way? I think it pretty much doesn't matter. It's whatever your preference is. I think they both turn out nicely. I was just noticing as I was editing this that like right there, it looks like the star is like shooting because I just had it at one angle. So that was kind of fun. I could do something with that later at some point. Okay, so my latest new toy is these glue bottles. This is a blunt needle tip, so it's not sharp. It's not going to stab you or pierce your skin or anything, but you can just fill it with any kind of paint you like, and then it creates kind of I don't even want to say marker, but just because you can just make such tiny little fine lines. So I have lots of experimenting to do with this, but right now I filled the bottle with some of my blacklight glow paint because that's my my jam for this notebook, this art journal. So I felt like the page definitely needed more stars. So I'm just going to continue the pattern that I started with and just use more stars to mask and kind of repeat the same thing I did at first. It can be really helpful to pause a few times as you're working on your page and just like walk away and come back, or look at it through a camera lens or something, and just take the time to kind of look and go, okay, is there some place that feels unbalanced? Does something need more? Something need changing? Okay, so I'm filling up my second bottle, this time with yellow glow black light paint, and I'm going to outline some more stars with the yellow. My hopes is that when I do the black light thing, the stars will be very distinct because of this outline. Okay, so I'm taking a moment just to kind of observe, and I feel like the stars need a little bit more definition or pop. So I'm just going to go outline them with a black Sharpie, not a Sharpie, a Posca. Kind of a thin line. I'm hoping that'll be enough. Like that right there makes it definitely look more defined. So I think it does help. And because I have black in the background, like the contrast just makes it like, woohoo. Okay, I'm so excited about my quote because I was thinking about, okay, how can I combine like stars and numbers? And then it was like, poof, inspiration. So in the Bible, back in Genesis, God's talking to Abraham and he brings him outside in the night sky and says, look up at the heavens and count the stars, even if indeed you can. So shall your offspring be. And this is when Abraham didn't even have children. So Abraham believed Yahweh, and he credited it to him as righteousness. And then in the New Testament, in Galatians, it says, and if you are Christ, then you are Abraham's offspring, heirs according to the promise. So I just love that, how it all kind of comes together. And then when I think about stars, I think about, the fact that our Creator knows each of them by name, and he knows each of his people by name. And I am one of those promised descendants of Abraham, spiritually speaking, in Christ. Okay, so I just wasn't sure about my lettering, the spacing, or how, I don't know, just something about it just didn't feel complete, or it didn't pop the way I wanted it to, or something. So I thought maybe I'd try outlining it in black. And I had to kind of let it sit for a little while. And I think let it sit overnight because I was just like, I just don't know. It's kind of like when you're trying something on at the store, a piece of clothing, and you really want to like it, but you try it on and it just doesn't feel right. That's kind of how I feel about my quote, my title there right now. But you'll see, I'm going to go back and do something about it here in a minute. And right now I am using old dried out, well, it's not completely dried, but almost dried out glitter glue. And I am just using my finger to fill in the stars with glitter. Okay, this is where I'm trying to decide if I want to go a different route. So what I did is take a picture with my phone and then I digitally put that on there, and I thought, okay, do I want to paint it black and then redo my title? So first I printed up my quote in several different fonts, and then I'm just kind of trying them out. Ooh, I kind of like that one. Then that one not as much. Ooh, I really like this font. And so I'm thinking I was going to trace it on here after I first start with a black background. And I'm just going to be kind of careful to just cover up the words that I want to redo. I don't want a huge black spot. I do that a lot in a lot of my pages just to create that like pop of contrast by creating a black like text box or whatever I want to stand out. But I didn't want to overdo it on this page because I have kind of white as my main, contrasty. So, yeah, I like that. And in fact, I was like, I think I'm just going to use the printed instead of writing it myself. I usually really prefer to do handwritten titles and words rather than any kind of store-bought quote. And really with any element on a page, I like to make it myself. But I'm going to protect the words here by kind of like fake laminating them in the way. I'm using packaging tape, and I'm just making sure I put them on a place that's nice and smooth and doesn't have any of those little wrinkles. And then I'm just going to cut it out and glue it on the page. So I think I kind of obsessed over this page more than normal. As you can see, I'm wearing a different sweatshirt because it's the next day. I actually woke up like worried about the upper right corner of my page and if it had a little too much negative space. Isn't that ridiculous? I think I have I don't know if it's a hormonal issue or what, but like in the middle of the night for usually about an hour, I wake up and think about things that should never really stress me out during the day. But I don't know. My brain's like, oh, you should really think about that spot in the corner of your art journal. Anyway, I came back to it with fresh eyes and decided, yeah, I'm going to add one more star up there in the corner. So there it is. So I almost published this video without doing a review with the black light. Isn't that cool? I just love it. I don't know. Maybe I should wait on all my pages until the flip through so you can see it all. Isn't that so fun? I don't know. I'm having way too much fun. Well, that concludes my page. I hope that you enjoyed watching my process. If you did, be sure to subscribe and like and do all that YouTube-y stuff. And I hope that you'll come back and hang out with me again. And until then, go make some art and have a blessed day.